No. Holy shit. He said what?
Doria Ragland has said enough is enough. I'm moving out of Montecito for good.
I've never truly seen them. 5 quiet words, however, when spoken by Doria Ragland, Meghan Markle's own mother. They hit like a thunderclap. Meghan's mother has never truly...
Meghan Markle has now been abandoned by her mom after the Duchess begged, "Don't leave me."
Seen Archie or Lilibet. Then what has the world been looking at all these years? The world saw perfection. The smiling mother, the royal children, the sunlit Montecito mansion. However,
she's seen how her daughter's lies have been exposed. She's seen how her daughter uses people.
perfection has a price. And behind those carefully framed photos, something didn't feel real. Whispers began to surface from inside the house. A woman who once worked there described rooms that looked lived in, however.
And as a calm yogi, she simply doesn't want to put up with it.
Perfect modern royal, balancing compassion, motherhood, and celebrity like a saint, wrapped in designer fabric. The cameras captured her strategically released, felt less like memories.
She got sick of the constant moaning and
Through the silence, like a siren. As if even their grandmother never saw Archie and Lilibet. Then who did? This isn't rumor. These are testimonies from those who lived behind those gates, who saw everything, and yet somehow saw nothing.
The reality is not that. The reality is she's a joke. It's embarrassing at this point.
At all. They say truth hides in plain sight. However, in this story, it might be hiding behind the camera. And that's where our story begins. Doria's quiet confession didn't come from gossip. It came from exhaustion. For years, she stood at the edge of Meghan's world, watching the cameras flash, the interviews roll, and the stories multiply. Yet in all the photo ops and PR, perfect smiles, something was missing. The children who were supposed to be at the heart of it all. People close to Meghan describe her Montecito life not as peaceful motherhood, however as performance art. Every outing felt rehearsed, every image curated. Staff say she would arrive with stylists, publicists, and security, however never with Archie or Lilibet. When asked about them, her answers were vague, rehearsed, and strangely detached. The woman who claimed to crave privacy somehow managed to live entirely on camera, yet kept the most basic truths out of sight. And then there's the timeline. Meghan's home life was sold to the public like a Netflix script, polished, tearful, marketable. However,
cradling Archie, smiling at charity events, and strolling through sunny California gardens. But those images, perfectly timed and...
Those who actually stepped inside that house described a different story. A chill in the air. A silence that didn't match the fairy tale. Even Doria, the one person who should have been closest, was kept at a distance, permitted to watch the brand. However, not the reality. Behind the soft speeches and expensive wardrobe, Meghan wasn't building a home. She was building an image, one that required everyone, even her mother, to play along. However, when Doria slipped and told the truth, the illusion never were. Toys placed with precision, blankets folded too neatly, no fingerprints, no laughter, no sound. And then came Doria's words again. She said, "It felt like a movie set, beautiful, however empty." That single sentence tore, and more like marketing. Behind palace gates, the narrative was airtight. Every milestone came with press releases. Every appearance accompanied by professional lighting, and it was supposed to be the fairy tale sequel, the American Duchess escaping royal cruelty. At first, dates that didn't line up, photos that looked off, and statements that contradicted each other. Nothing explosive. Simply subtle inconsistencies that together...
But this woman is a fake. Meghan Markle is a complete fake. Everything about her is fake and contrived.
Controlled access. The story was written, edited, and rehearsed long before the world ever saw it. Yet, there were cracks. Small, almost invisible, creating her dream family in California. However, neighbors rarely saw children. Paparazzi, usually relentless, never caught a single candid moment of Archie or Lilibet. Playgrounds near their estate, always empty. The streets, silent. Then came the most curious part. Even when Meghan's team released family footage, viewers noticed odd details. Changing interiors, shifting backdrops, children whose faces were blurred, angles that avoided clarity. Every clip carefully, constructed to protect privacy. Yes, however, perhaps also to protect the illusion. As for Meghan, reality was never the priority. Perception was. According to the former maid, the Montecito mansion wasn't simply quiet, it was unsettling. She described a house too, perfect, too symmetrical, as if someone had built a showroom rather than a family home. Every cushion aligned, every photo frame, spotless, every cent calculated. It felt less like children lived there, and more like a lifestyle magazine come to life. It was like walking through a stage dream, she recalled. A dream that no one actually lived in. The strangest part wasn't the silence. No toys scattered across the floor, no clothes drying by the window, no baby cries echoing down the hall. Instead, there was the faint hum of air purifiers, the distant chatter of staff who never mentioned the kids, and Meghan's voice, sharp, demanding, always echoing through the polished halls. When Meghan,
and the two main feeders of the rumours, according to Lady C's book, Meghan was too big for, well, I suppose her first baby, and also too big for the fact of only having one child, and she seemed to be too big at the wrong time.
appeared, she wasn't the serene mother seen on camera. Staff described her as tense, restless, obsessed with how things looked rather than how they felt. She'd sweep through rooms, adjusting decor, giving orders, ensuring the image of perfection never slipped, as if someone were always watching. And when Harry tried to calm her, the tension only deepened. Then came the night no one forgot. Raised voices behind a locked door, the unmistakable sound of an argument. Meghan's words, cold and cutting, sliced through the silence until Marcus Anderson stepped in. Then their house grew still again. However, from that night on, even the staff whispered that something inside the walls had broken. The maid's unease deepened when she realized something even cracked, and Meghan's performance started to unravel. The official story of Meghan Markle's motherhood was flawless, almost too flawless. Every magazine spread painted her as the stranger. During all her time there, she had never once seen Meghan visibly pregnant. Not in passing, not in photos around the home, not even in the personal spaces where clothes were kept. There were no maternity gowns, no baby products stored away, no signs of prenatal life, anywhere. For a household supposedly welcoming two royal babies, it felt oddly sterile. Staff began whispering among themselves, careful not to speak too loudly. Some believed Meghan's pregnancies had been private for security reasons, while others weren't therefore sure. The timeline didn't add up. The bump in public appearances seemed to change in size from one event to another. When the press questioned inconsistencies, the response was always the same: silence or a statement about privacy. One staff member recalled hearing the phrase, "Everything must look authentic before a magazine shoot." Another noticed that the nursery, once rumored to be lavishly designed, stayed closed for months, untouched. Its lights.
It throws into doubt everything she posts on her social media, like, are the children real? Has she changed the hair color, which keeps on going up and down grades?
Rarely switched on. Even deliveries of baby items were peculiar. Boxes labeled props rather than toys or clothes. When Meghan finally re-emerged in the public eye after each birth, she appeared flawless. Perfectly styled, glowing, and camera-ready. No exhaustion, no hesitation, no trace of new mother. It was as if the entire experience had been rehearsed, filmed, and edited before it ever happened. Inside the mansion, whispers turned to fear. Was this about privacy, or about maintaining a storyline that could never be questioned? Weeks turned into months, and the silence inside the Montecito estate became impossible to ignore. The maid, who had worked in several family homes before, stated she couldn't shake one haunting detail. She never once heard the sound of children. No laughter, no crying, no tiny footsteps running down the hall. The house was large, echoing, and immaculate. However, it felt hollow, like a stage between scenes. Every morning, she'd clean the same untouched nursery. The crib remained perfectly made, its sheets crisp and unwrinkled, a rocking chair that never moved. Toys arranged in symmetrical lines like props placed for display. Even the baby monitor was spotless, showing no signs of use. It was as if the idea of children existed, however, not the children themselves. When visitors came, the staff received clear instructions. Keep doors closed, avoid questions, and never mention Archie or Lilibet by name. Guests were led through selected rooms only, the picturesque ones meant to mirror the images Meghan and Harry had shared with the world. However, bedrooms, the play areas, off-limits, locked. Some workers started to believe the children were elsewhere, hidden away from both family and staff. Others suspected something darker, that they were never there at all. However, no one dared to ask Meghan directly. Her temper.
People like Meghan will always stay with the man if there's no better option,
They said, was unpredictable. One wrong word could cost a job. Still, the question lingered in every corner of that empty house. Where were Archie and Lilibet? As for a home built around the image of family, it carried none of its warmth. When Meghan and Harry's Netflix documentary aired, the maid, by then long dismissed from the Montecito staff, sat down to watch it out of curiosity. However, within minutes, she felt an icy chill of recognition mixed with disbelief. The house shown on screen wasn't the same home she had worked in. The layout, the windows, even the staircase, all subtly different. The kitchen in the series faced sunlight from the wrong direction, and the hallway decor looked like a designer's replica, not the real thing. At first, she thought she was mistaken. Maybe they had renovated. However, as the scenes continued, her confusion deepened. The children's play area shown in the documentary didn't exist in the house she knew. The garden path was different too. In reality, that stretch of greenery led nowhere. Here, it led to a picture-perfect bench where Meghan sat, narrating her pain to the camera. Every detail was pristine, cinematic, unreal. The set-through production claimed to show their authentic life, yet everything looked constructed. From the lighting to the way Meghan cradled the baby's hand that never fully appeared on screen. Even Harry seemed rehearsed, repeating lines that echoed their interviews word for word. For the maid, it felt like watching a movie filmed on a set, pretending to be their home.